You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. We played in the intro, so you already know what we are. We the unofficial football podcast of the North. And yeah, one of our weekly recaps, as you've hopefully come to know and love. So yeah, we're going to start off with some injury news and then move into some transfer news and transfer adjacent things. Then we'll move into CPL, MLS, and finish up with what our boys are doing abroad. So how do we get into injury news? Because it wouldn't be a week in Canada soccer without just that little bit of injury news. Canada has the injury bug. That is for sure. Of course, we've touched upon it in the past, and seems like we're not shaking it anytime soon, which sucks. But yeah, Ralph Priso. We already knew, of course, he did go out with an injury in the Canada game. Over last week, we've been given a bit of a timeline of when to expect him to be back. Looking like 8 to 10 weeks, meaning his World Cup. Whether you want to consider he was on the bubble, maybe he was a sure thing call-up, who knows? His World Cup is most likely in doubt, regardless of where you placed him in the standings. I think this is just such a huge shame because he's a young player, starting to look real good, getting those minutes at club level, consistently building up over the last few matches and everything. And I do think it is a shame to see anybody go out hurt, and especially during a World Cup year when he's a guy that was, in theory, fighting for a World Cup spot. That is such a huge blow for him. And the Whitecaps, of course. So, yeah, I really hope he gets better soon. Maybe he can get better quicker than they think. But, yeah, this is a huge, huge shame. And obviously, I know Ralph Priso probably doesn't watch this, but if he does, I do hope that he gets better soon. Of course, I've been a huge champion of Ralph Priso since last season. I think since last season, he's really exploded. Since October of last year, I was calling for him to have a World Cup spot. So I've been a fan of him. I've been really championing for Ralph Priso. So this really does suck for him. And yeah, you never want to see someone go out injured. Another one of our guys that has sustained an injury, Marcelo Flores. Tigres reporting that he had a bit of a tear during, I think, a training session. They have not released a timeline, but people were saying with the type of tear and injury that it is, you could be looking at weeks to months without any timeline that's been released by Tigres. So we'll hope that's only maybe a couple weeks. But who really knows? This one seems to be a day-by-day basis at the moment of when we're going to learn what it could even, how long it could be. Watch, I'm going to post this and we're going to get the news of how long it is. But regardless, as of recording, we don't know how long he is going to be out for. All we can do is hope that it won't be a long time, because that would really be such a blow, especially for a guy that, you know, he came on quite strong for Canada in that last international break. And after all the hype and the potential surrounding this young player, it would be such a shame to see him just, what are we, about 50 to 60 days out from the World Cup. It would be a shame to see another one of our young guys sitting out on the sideline, missing out on this World Cup. So hopefully it's nothing serious, but time will tell, I suppose. At the club level, of course, he's not Canadian, but he plays for one of our Canadian teams, one of the best players playing for one of our Canadian teams. Georgi Mihailovic, got a pelvic stress fracture. He will be out for the next 8 weeks. Robin Fraser saying he doesn't think that he's going to need surgery. It looks like a rest up kind of situation. So hopefully that is the case. Regardless, once again, for the States, he was more so on the bubble of if he would be going, if he would not be going. This just ensures he will not be going. So it's another big blow for a World Cup hopeful, and this is a huge blow for TFC. I think he's one of the best players that is playing in a Canada soccer setup at the moment. I know he's not Canadian, but you get my point. So I think this is a huge blow. He's had a very good start to the season, and he's had a good start to life with TFC when he came in midway through last season. So this is a big, big blow for TFC. I think they're going to really struggle to replace his productivity, his ability on the ball, his technical prowess. I think they're going to really struggle to replace that over the next couple of weeks. But on the not that's a bright side, but on the bright side, with the World Cup going on, he might not miss as many MLS games as what would be expected in a normal season, if we can take a positive from that. But yeah, that is a huge, huge blow. We'll move into some transfer news now. Over in England, Jamie Knight-Labelle has signed. He's re-upped with Bristol City until 2029. One of our young center backs. He's, of course, on loan right now to Swindon Town. Obviously, Bristol sees him as part of the plans if they're giving him that new contract. I'm a fan of Knight-Labelle. I think he's another one that has a lot of potential. He's a good young center back, and I think he could have a very big future with the Canadian men's national team. So hopefully these are the right steps on that track for that to be the case. And yeah, I'm a big fan of this. So I don't have much of note to add to this apart from it happened, and I'm happy for him. I think he's got a load of potential. Elsewhere, as per One Soccer have been reporting, Santiago Lopez looks like he'll be joining Atletico Ottawa on a short-term loan deal with no permanent buy option. Of course, he plays for Pumas in Liga MX. He hasn't been getting a ton of playing time. He wants to play more. Ottawa are willing to bring him in on loan. Seems like a win-win for everyone. Yeah, I'm a fan of this player. I think he's another one. Take a shot every time Sam says that they have potential. But I think that he has boatloads of potential. We've seen it a couple of times at club level with Pumas in those moments that he has gotten to shine. And yeah, I think that when you're young, you need to play, and you need to play, and you need to develop. So if Atletico Ottawa will be that route for him, I think that this is a good route to take. Atletico Ottawa, of course, have a lot of replacing to do with a lot of big, big players leaving them in the offseason. So if Santiago Lopez can kind of help that, that's a good thing. For Atletico Ottawa, I think they do kind of get the short end of the stick on this one. They'd only be getting him for like half the season, so they're not even going to be getting him for the important end of season run in. And if they make the playoffs and whatnot, looking like they might not even have him for that. But regardless, for Santiago Lopez, he needs to play, and I think that the CPL will offer that outlet, and I think that he will do well. So hopefully that is the case. Going back to TFC now. Reports breaking that Cifuentes, there have been no talks to bring him in on a permanent, because remember, he is just a loan from Rangers at the moment. I think this is a mistake if they don't bring him in on a permanent. I'm a big fan of Cifuentes. I think he's started the season really, really well. Him and Jonathan Osorio in that midfield two that they've been playing over the last number of weeks, where they've kind of been playing three at the back and then two wing backs, two midfielders, and then the attacking three. I think him and Oso really complement each other well. I think that he's quite the engine that you want in the team. So I think that it would be a big mistake if they don't sign him. Now, of course, them having not started talks doesn't mean he won't join TFC on a permanent. Just at the moment, that's not the case. No talks have begun, so we will wait and see on that. Elsewhere, CF Montreal, this was... I don't mean this in a bad way, not the most shocking news, but they have sacked their coach, Marco Donadel. Yeah, I mean, you could do an entire podcast, not just episode, but like a whole podcast series on what is going on with CF Montreal. And yeah, just not a lot good going on with them at the moment. Marco Donadel, he found himself, I think, in a tough spot. Not to say he was doing good, but I don't think that he was in a winning position regardless of anything. I don't think he was ever really going to have the chance. Montreal is just, to put it in the most Spark Notes term possible, a bit of a mess at the moment. This was not a surprise, especially after the game at the weekend where they did lose. Montreal canceled all their press conferences, so usually that points to something big is happening, and people were kind of noting most likely manager has been relieved of his duties, and that's exactly what happened here. So I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he can land on his feet. You do never want to see someone lose their job, but yeah, sadly not the most shocking news. We will end this little segment on a bit of a positive. Rumors breaking. This one's courtesy of @CKenMNT 86101 on Twitter. He is saying that Steve Vittoria has apparently been coaching with John Herman in Indonesia. So I'm a fan of that. I think Vittoria was always a very good player. John Herman and him seem to have a very good relationship. So I think that is good. And yeah, more Canadians coaching at a professional level, I think the better. And wherever that may take them, hopefully it brings him back to Canada. Maybe we can see him as a part of the Canada staff one day. I think that'd be very, very good. But yeah, we'll end that one on a positive, and we'll get into some of the CPL results right now. So in the CPL over the weekend, the first game that took place was not Supra and Pacific, but it will be the first game we do talk about because history was made in the CPL. Supra made their debut in the CPL, first Quebec team to play in the CPL. This was a huge moment. They were playing at Pacific, and right now, Supra are technically the only CPL team with a 100% win record in their entire history. So don't look into that stat, because if you do, it'll become very much not impressive given that they've only played one game. But regardless, still a piece of history. But yeah, this was a really back and forth game. Let's be real here. It was end-to-end stuff, the type of stuff that makes you go, yeah, man, like this is fun to watch. Pacific continued their non-winning start to the season, having lost the first game of the season and now losing here. Not an ideal way to start the season, for sure. And especially coming off the season that they had last time out. Yeah, I think concerns are still raised for Pacific going into this season. A lack of recruitment, I think, coming in, and a lack of looking like any real plan to improve what they did last season. I do know that last season they did have those big injuries to, say, a Ronan Krat, who started the season on fire and then did his ACL. And then that was kind of their season done. But if you're hitching your wagon to one player, then it just shows me that, what's the plan, So moving away, though, from Pacific, because the story here was Supra. This is a team that is made up of entirely people from Quebec. So that is huge for that community as well, that soccer community here in Canada. It's a huge community, so it's great that now they have a spotlight in the pro level to get to show that off. That is their recruitment strategy. If you're familiar with the La Liga, Athletic Bilbao, they only recruit people from that location. So now Supra are only bringing in guys of Quebec. So I think that that's huge, especially it shines a spotlight on a lot of these players, and it was some of those players, all those players that stepped up. You had Sean Rea, who CPL fans will be no stranger to, in my opinion, one of the best players in the CPL on his day. You just see his class, his ability on the ball, his ability off the ball. You just see it with him. He is just one of the best that this league has to offer. He grabbed himself a goal. Quemi grabbed himself the first goal in Supra history in the 34th minute. Then, of course, Sean Rea in the 58th grabbed himself a goal. And then in the last few moments of the match, it was Alexander Marquois who grabbed himself the winner, the first ever Supra winner in history. So yeah, I think that that's absolutely huge, absolutely massive. And yeah, I'm excited to see what Supra can do for the rest of this season and where they may go. I'm also very interested with what Pacific will be doing with the rest of their season, because last season I was very critical of them. This season I've probably started out being quite critical of them again. So I do think that they've got some very good players, of course. Hurd, Bustos, Ronan Krat. They do have some top players for the CPL, and they just need to figure it out. They do. Simple as. They need to figure it out. They have too talented of a team, and they have a history behind them of being a playoff contender pretty much every year. They've won the CPL playoffs in the past, so no excuses, in my opinion, for them to not figure this one out. But time will tell. And yeah, for Supra, very exciting project there. Very happy for everyone involved there, and hoping that they can build on this and we can see them. Maybe we can see them get a playoff push. I think that'd be really fun if you see the new boys in town grab themselves a playoff push. So yeah, we'll move on from this match. We'll go into our next one. It was another kind of debut. It was Inter Toronto, the new rebrand of York United, formerly York Nines as well. So yeah, three different iterations of this club, but we're gonna get into that one now. So looking at it, Inter Toronto made their debut, re-debut, however you want to put it. They made their debut against the Halifax Wanderers over the weekend in a 2-2 draw. And it was a rematch of the playoff from last year, and it was the same result, a draw. Just there was no penalties to separate them on the day. But Julian Altobelli continues to be one of the league's top attackers. He grabbed himself a brace in his first outing of the season, so already separating himself from the pack goal-wise. But yeah, I think that there's a lot to be excited about if you're an Inter Toronto fan. Of course, Altobelli is a very good player. Then you have the young Sholojimo, who that kid, that guy's going places, I'll tell you that much. Then, of course, the new signings like Badi Bonga and Ollie Bassett, both coming on for their debuts, didn't start this match. Maybe that's Eustachio trying to integrate them in. Who knows? But then on the flip side, you had the Halifax Wanderers. They just wouldn't go away. And I mean that in a complimentary way. They wouldn't back down. They brought the fight to Inter Toronto. Every time they went down, they clawed themselves back, and a draw was definitely a fair result, I thought, in this one. Sorelli was only on the pitch for less than a minute until he scored the ultimate tying goal. So, a lot to be excited about if you're Halifax as well. Vanni Sartini starting the season. He's undefeated after 2 games, 1 win, 1 draw. But yeah, I think that he's going to be very exciting to see what he can do with Halifax this season. So yeah, I think that if you're a Halifax fan, I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think if you're an Inter Toronto fan, there's a lot to be excited about. So yeah, this was a back and forth game as well. That common theme here actually was for most of these games at the weekend. A lot of back and forth. So let's get into our next game as I bring up my notes. Who is the next game? Who's our next target? It is a rematch of the CPL final from last season. It was Cavalry hosting Atletico Ottawa. Just a lot less snow this time around. There was no icicle kick in this one, but there was a clear difference in tactics on display, and there was one team here that really was the better side on the day, and if you guessed the one that scored 3 goals to win it, you'd be correct. Cavalry we are only 2 games in, so there is still a long season ahead, but Cavalry so far have shown that they're the team to beat, I think, this season. From back to front, they look like the most complete team. Goalkeeping, solid. Defense, solid. Midfield, solid. Attack, solid. I struggle to find a weakness in this Cavalry side at the moment. And yes, I do know, only 2 games in. That can always change. I get it. But at the moment, man, they're looking good. Dan Klomp, we already know, one of the best defenders that this league has seen. So you already know the quality that you're getting in him. Nate Ingham, one of the best goalkeepers this league has seen, so you know what you're getting in him. Tobias Warshevsky, one of the best strikers this league has seen, and he does it all too. He doesn't just score goals. He helps in the build-up, helps in the press, helps defensively. Very good with the ball at his feet, very comfortable with the ball at his feet. He is good, and I think potentially, man, this could be the signing of the season to watch. Harry Paton. Harry Paton has started this season on fire. I had a conversation with Harry Paton the other day. That's a hint to who our next podcast interview is going to be. I had a conversation with him, and he had told me, it was after their first match, he told me that something he wanted to work on this season was scoring goals. He wants to contribute to the goal scoring front of it. 2 games so far into the season, 2 goals for Harry Paton, and 2 man of the match performances. Genuinely, he is separating himself as one of the top midfielders in the league after just 2 games played for Cavalry. If I'm Forge, I'm kicking myself that they let him leave because I think that he adds instantly to any team that he signed with, of course, that being Cavalry. But he, former Canadian international, of course, played majority of his pro career in Scotland, very high level there. And he's bringing that experience and that footballing IQ to Cavalry. I think that it's going to be very exciting to watch this team as a whole. Then you have guys like Intigne as well, Musi on the wings here. They're going to be a very scary team to watch, this Cavalry side. On the Atletico Ottawa side, they are not coping well at all with the amount of guys that they have lost. And that's not me going, do better, Ottawa. It's a genuine... I'd be concerned if I was an Ottawa fan because, you know, losing Sam Salter, Rodriguez, Dos Santos, Ingham, Didic, those were the real big losses, I thought, for Ottawa over the offseason. And they haven't replaced them. In all fair, you're going to struggle to replace a Sam Salter and a Rodriguez. You just are. They were two quality players and did a lot for you over the season. But then even a Dos Santos was quality for them last season. Ingham, of course, one of the top keepers in the league. You're going to struggle to replace that. You just are. But they need to. They need to. And if they don't, I think that this could be a very long season for Ottawa. And it could be a season where you see them not even qualify for the playoffs if these first two games are anything to look at, in a sense, because I've seen not a whole ton from them. If I was an Ottawa fan, I would see not a whole ton for me to get excited about for this season. Maybe I'm being too harsh on them, but yeah, I do think that they need to find those replacements. They have quality still, of course. Manny Aparicio, very good player, and you just, when you lose players, you need to bring players in. And you knew Rodriguez was alone anyways. You knew from, when did Salter confirm he was leaving? It was September, October of last year. So you had a long time to try to figure out at least some semblance of where are goals coming from next year. And so far, only one goal over the last two games. Against Forge in the opening game, they didn't even have a shot. Not even a shot on it. They didn't have a shot, period. No shot. They blanked, in the first game of the season. This time they were played off the pitch by Cavalry. So, yeah, I think that could be a very long season if Ottawa don't figure it out, really. But we'll move on from Ottawa. We'll talk about the final game of the season, and it was Forge and Vancouver FC. So looking at the final CPL game of the weekend, it was Forge going to Vancouver to face Vancouver FC. And second game in a row, Vancouver FC very unlucky to leave with nothing, because I think that first game they played very well, got undone by just a beautiful free kick, what's going to be one of the goals of the season, and then in this game they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And of course you're going to miss your chances, and it will come back to haunt you, and that was the case for Vancouver, because I do think that their play and their overall, just everything overall for them on the day, I thought warranted bare minimum a draw. I thought that they looked very good. They were finding a lot of joy against that Forge back line, especially down Vancouver's left flank, Forge's right flank. I thought that they were just absolutely eating that ground up, and just they could not capitalize. Caught Forge on the counter a couple of times too and could not capitalize. Amisi and Taron Campbell, I think, probably will be kicking themselves a little bit that they're not leaving this game with a goal each, because both of them, I think, definitely could have. And for Vancouver, I think all the pieces are there. Taron Campbell, we know he is a quality striker. He's got 42 goals in this league. I'm not sure if he's still the highest ever, but he was the highest ever. I'm not sure if Sam Salter overtook him before he left. But regardless, he's one of the top two goal scorers in the league in the history of the league. So he knows how to score goals. Amicia started this campaign looking very, very good. I thought Marcello Polisi, what a game, man. Sam, you might be being a little bit biased to your former Maple Footy guest. Maybe I am, but I thought he was absolutely everywhere on this game, just covering up so much ground, putting in some just beautiful tackles, those hard tackles that we love to see. And I thought their defense looked quite good as well. They get undone in the end, but yeah, I think that if you're a Vancouver FC fan, I think that there is a lot to be positive about, and I think that if they actually, once all the pieces come together, I actually think that this Vancouver FC side could do something that they've never done before, and that is qualify for the playoffs at the end of the season. So if I'm a Vancouver FC fan, I'm hopeful for this one, because they've shown that they can go out and do it. They just have to now start converting those chances when they come, and I do think that it could be a very good season for Vancouver FC. On the Forge side, don't think they were bad by any means, but I definitely don't think that this was as good as their outing against Ottawa, and they do get, I don't want to say lucky, but they do get a little bit of fortune their way with Vancouver not being able to convert. Of course, a lot of that credit goes to Bortu, who made a lot of very nice saves for Forge. I feel like we'll be saying that a lot over the season. This guy looks like a quality goalkeeper. So I do think that Forge have themselves a keeper there. But it was Maxime Fillion, first ever Maple Footy guest. stepping up, grabbing himself his first goal of the season. So we're super happy for Maxime Fillion. That's always going to be our guy. Very happy that he stepped up, had that moment, got that goal. And it's a moment that, you know, as a striker, you live for. Ball comes into the box, kind of bobbles around a little bit, and he takes it. As a striker, you live off of those. So it just shows his frame of mind, his prowess, if you will, of where to be, what to do, and that's huge for Maxime Fillion. I thought Ben Paton had a very good game as well. Those Paton boys, they're having themselves quite the good start to this season. Of course, Ben Paton, also a former Maple Footy guest, but yeah, and then of course our most recent interview, Anthony Oromaterio, he got man of the match in this one, and yeah, if you missed that Anthony interview, it is up on the channel. Go check it out. But this weekend coming up, it will be Forge and Cavalry playing. So it will be the Paton Bowl. Remember when in the Super Bowl a few years ago, it was the Kelsey Bowl? That's what we're going to start branding this Cavalry and Forge match. It'll be the Paton Bowl. Harry Paton versus Ben Paton. Both of them having great starts to the season, by the way. And I will say right now, next interview going up this Friday, Harry Paton. You don't want to miss it. I hinted at it earlier. We'll confirm it now this Friday. Don't want to miss it. Prep for the Paton Bowl by watching our interview with Ben Paton from last year, and then watching our Harry Paton interview that will be going up this Friday. You don't want to miss it, so check that out. With that being said, we're going to move into the MLS news and stuff, and then we'll go abroad. So we will actually, I kind of lied to you. We're starting out in the CONCACAF Champions Cup because one of the MLS teams is in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that is our honorary Canadian team, LAFC, who did win 3-0 over Cruz Azul. Mathieu Choinière grabbed himself 2 assists, so that's a great way to start that two-legged affair. And going into the weekend, they were looking good, man. They were looking good. And then they ran into the Portland Timbers, and Portland offered LAFC their first loss of the season. Our former honorary Canadian team facing off against our current honorary Canadian team. James Pantemis had himself quite the good game, made some big stops for Portland, so maybe making the case that he could be on the plane for the World Cup. Thomas Hassel also started this game, the Canadian goalkeeper as well. Mathieu Choinière started this one. Jacob Schaffelberg got himself in amongst the minutes. Ryan Raposo did not, and Stefan Estacio is still out hurt at the moment, hoping that he can get himself back to fitness ahead of the World Cup, because we will need him. But yeah, LAFC, I mean, they were bound to lose at some point. They just were. Every team does. So it was going to happen, but LAFC still looking very strong, looking like they're in cruise control going into the second leg in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So, yeah, not a whole ton to say outside of Portland, man. Big result for them. James Pantemis, really happy for him. Kamal Miller was back on the bench in this one following his one-game suspension after just never a red card that he received before the international break. But regardless, Kamal Miller was back on the bench, so I'm sure that he will be back in the minutes sooner rather than later. Elsewhere in Colorado, they won 6-2, and I'm bringing this up because Kosi Thompson grabbed himself a debut brace. What is it about young TFC players? When they leave TFC, they immediately hit the ground running at their new club. But regardless, very happy for Kosi Thompson. As I said last episode, I think that this was a needed change of scenery for him. And hey, I mean, if you're going to go and grab yourself 2 goals in your debut, there really isn't much better of a way to introduce yourself to the new fans that will be supporting you. So happy for him. He is definitely he'll be a good player, I think, for Colorado. So hoping that debut is an indication of it. Elsewhere, Stephen Afrifra made himself his 50th appearance for Sporting KC. So happy for him. It was another 3-1 loss for Sporting KC, but we'll look at the positive. Afrifra got himself his 50th appearance for the club, getting about the last 20 to 25 minutes of that one. And got to wrap it up for some of the MLS stuff by talking about our goalkeepers, because both of them had themselves a draw at the weekend. Firstly, Inter Miami drew with the Red Bulls 2-2. Dane St. Clair, not much he could have done about those goals. Kind of hung out to dry a little bit by his defense, made a couple of saves. But yeah, not a whole ton he could, especially the second goal, really not a whole ton. Maybe he could have done a little bit better on the first one, but for the second goal, not a whole ton he could have done on that one. His defense just left a man wide open and said, have at it, Dane, you got it. Sadly, Dane cannot be in 12 places at once. And then for Orlando, Maxime Crepeau, the Canadian Buffon, was back to his best. He is the reason his team got a draw in this one rather than lose, because he made five crucial stops in this one. If it wasn't for him, they would have lost this one. It would have been probably another 4 or 5 goal deficit as well, because I don't know, something about Orlando just screams, we want to concede goals. So good thing Maxime Crepeau was there. We call him the Canadian Buffon for a reason. That's because he's earned that name. He is that guy. But yeah, nothing he could have done about the goal, and made 5 big stops. If you missed the highlights or the game, go check them out, because you will see the Maxime Crepeau show. I'm very happy for him, because he is someone that I want to be starting at this World Cup. Moving into our Canadian teams, we'll kind of fly through these because this is already a long one. I don't like to fly through the Canadian ones, but sometimes you got to. TFC drew 1-1 with Cincinnati. This is 2 drop points for TFC. No two ways about it. They grabbed themselves a goal through own goal nefarious methods, but regardless, grabbed themselves the lead when they're up a man. You just got to conserve that, man. You just got to see that out. They don't, and Cincinnati makes them pay. They grab themselves a last-minute winner on the counterattack. I've been positive for TFC this season, and this result does not change my opinion that I do still think TFC will be making the playoffs. As a team, as a manager, when you are a man up and a goal up, absolutely zero excuse to get caught on the counter and concede in the manner of which they did. Zero excuses, because you're a man up and a goal up and you get caught on the counter. Come on. And I actually think TFC, in the first half especially, I thought they looked quite good. They were moving the ball around really well. You could tell they were missing that outlet of a Mihailovic. I still think that they're struggling to get Josh Sargent really involved in a lot of their play. Maybe that is just because he is still the new guy in town and they're still trying to figure out how to best utilize him. Fully get it, but at this moment in time, they're really struggling, I think, to utilize him. But Shalai looking like a very good signing. I thought he was once again a very good player for them at the weekend. Jonathan Osura, I thought, had another really good outing. Oh, Sam, you might be a bit biased, and so what if I am? I thought Richie Larea looked decent. Wasn't his best performance I always see, wasn't his worst, but yeah, I thought overall, especially in that first half, they looked pretty good. In the second half, I thought they really started to falter a little bit, but definitely once that red card was brandished, I think it should have been easy pickings for TFC, and then especially when they went up, that goal should have been easy pickings for TFC, but yeah, just no excuse to get caught on the counter like that when you're a man up. There just isn't. I'm sorry. Moving on from TFC, we'll talk a little bit about Montreal. I don't have much to say on this anymore. They once again just showed nothing over this game, and coach has now been sacked, so maybe that's the change they need. I don't think so. I think there needs to be a lot more changes in Montreal to really consider much, but yeah, I don't have a whole ton to say on them. I just feel for the Montreal faithful because, man, there was a time where they were a very exciting team to watch, and those days are long gone at this moment in time, and there's going to be a lot to change if those days are to come back. But you know, we don't want to be too negative here, not right now at least, but we'll move on to the Whitecaps, who grabbed themselves a 2-0 win over New York City FC, just continuing their great run of form to start this season. Berhalter looking like a proper player. Brian White looked good on the day. He is a player that I've criticized a little bit, not fully himself, just kind of in the way that I was criticizing for Josh Sargent, is that they haven't been getting him involved enough. That is kind of how I feel about Brian White. They haven't, in early days of the season, they just haven't gotten him involved enough. He's so much more than just a number 9 poacher striker kind of guy. Get him involved in the build-up, get him involved in the play, and that's what they did on the weekend here. And it worked. He grabbed himself a goal. He looks really good, and he's the type of player that you want involved. So once Ryan Gauld comes back, if Brian White can maintain this form, if they can figure out a way to get the best out of Thomas Muller as well, I think that the Whitecaps will have nothing to worry about going on for the rest of the season. With that being said, we'll take a trip to England and Europe and talk a little bit about what's going on there, and we'll wrap this one up because I do apologize. This is a little bit of a longer one. So, looking at the English Championship, where we have a good couple Canadians playing, and some of them had very big weeks. Starting out with the Liam Miller Hive. The Liam Miller Hive is always buzzing, but we're buzzing especially when Liam Miller grabs himself a big assist during a game. We won't talk about the result just yet. We want to talk about Liam Miller first, because Liam Miller, freaking class, man. I love this player, bro. He's one of my favorite players that we have playing in Canada soccer at the moment. He's just so much fun to watch, and he does so much. He's one of those attackers that isn't afraid to go back, get his hands dirty, so to speak, put in the defensive bits, and that's exactly what happened for this goal that Hull City did score. It comes from Liam Miller pressing. He steals the ball off of one of the Sheffield United players, takes it up, puts in a beautiful ball for Ollie McBurney. That's a throwback right there, McBurney, who scores against Sheffield United to put Hull up 1-0. Result ends up not going their way. They end up losing 2-1, and that could prove to be not great for their promotion hunt. But we're still happy for Liam Miller. But yeah, hopefully Hull can maintain those positions. They're in 6th right now. Hopefully they can maintain that position so they can at least get themselves into the playoffs for the promotion hunt. So moving away from Hull, though, look at another team that's firmly in the promotion hunt. Kyle Larin's Southampton against Wrexham. Something about Canadian players absolutely dunking on Wrexham that I frickin' live for, because Kyle Larin, and you know, we here at Maple Footy are the conductor of the Kyle Larin train. They tell me to get off the Kyle Larin train. I ain't going anywhere, baby. Grabs himself a huge goal against Wrexham as Southampton beat Wrexham. And this was a huge matchup, as Wrexham are trying desperately to get into those playoff spots. Southampton trying desperately to get in those playoff spots. Currently, Southampton sit in those playoff spots. Thanks to this game, they look very good at the moment. The Kyle Larin effect is in full swing at the moment. And yeah, it was a great goal by him. Brutal punishment on Kyle Larin's part. As Wrexham gets sloppy at the back, Kyle Larin says, "Thank you very much." Still has half the field to run and the composure to keep. But what more could you expect from Kyle Larin? Of course he's going to keep that composure. Of course he's going to put that chance away. It's just what he does. Where's that clip of Rio Ferdinand? It's what he does. That's Kyle Larin right now. Very happy about this. Elsewhere in the championship, we'll kind of list off where everyone is at the moment. Middlesbrough sit 4th. Of course, Alfie Jones plays there. Southampton 5th at the moment with the game in hand. Hull in 6th, 4 points clear of 7th. So those are our 3 playoff boys at the moment. 4 games to go as well, might I add. Norwich up in 9th following Ali Ahmed and a lot of those January signings doing their part. And Preston sitting pretty in 13th at the moment. So that's kind of where our Canadian boys are at the moment in the championship. Really happy for a lot of them. They've all had good individual seasons. Championship proving to be a very good home for some of our Canadian boys. And Hull and Southampton and Middlesbrough could all be seeing themselves in the playoff. Yeah, the promotion playoff come the end of the season. So hopefully that is the case, and we will be seeing at least one of them playing at Wembley for those promotion spots. Maybe we can even see one of them in the Premier League next season. Hopefully that is the case, and if it is, we'll of course be telling you all about it. But let's move elsewhere in Europe, and then we will wrap this one up. So starting out in Spain, Tani Oluwaseyi grabbed himself his second assist of the season in a 2-1 win over Bilbao. He played about 70 minutes, and Tajon Buchanan also played about 78. Both these guys grabbing the start. It was their first time starting together with Villarreal since February, so very happy for the two of them. I think both of them, Tajon especially, I think has had a really good season. Tanny has had, I don't want to say an up and down season, but just a season where I don't think he's gotten to be super involved. He's been kind of, in the lineup, out the lineup, used as a super sub, kind of not. He's kind of had, I guess, in a sense, an up and down season, but I don't mean it as, a form thing. It's just how he's been used. Whereas Tajon Buchanan, for the most part, has pretty much started most games, and when he doesn't start, he usually gets substantial minutes off the bench. So really happy for both these guys. Happy that Tanny grabs himself a goal contribution in this one. And yeah, it was a very nice play from him. Grabs the ball out wide, cuts in, puts in a nice ball for his Villarreal teammate. 1-0. They go on to win 2-1. Very big for them as they're continuing to chase those Champions League for next season. So hopefully they can attain said Champions League spot into next season. Elsewhere, Nathan Saliba, the best Saliba in world football, played the full 90 in a dramatic 3-1 win versus Ghent, where Anderlecht scored 2 goals in stoppage time to grab themselves that win. That is absolutely huge. They're, of course, in their playoff in a sense, but not the playoff that you're expecting, like, promotion playoff. In Belgium, the top 6 teams end up in a playoff at the end of the year for the title, the league title, and then, of course, European spots and whatnot. And then the bottom 6 teams play off in the relegation playoff of which teams are going to go down, which teams are going to go up, blah, 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 all that fun stuff. So right now they're in the midst of these kind of playoff format kind of thing. Kind of cool how they do it, actually. But yeah, Nathan Saliba, very big for him to get the nod in this one and then to go the full 90 as well. And of course, to get that 3-1 win, absolutely massive. In Italy, Ishmael Koné, what else is new? Absolutely balling. Eat your heart out, Roberto De Zerbi. Roberto De Zerbi about to get Tottenham Hotspur relegated, and Ishmael Koné is balling and living his best life. And the smile on my face, I'm trying to hide it, but couldn't make me happier. Could not make me happier. But sadly, Ishmael Koné's Sassuolo do lose 2-1, but Ishmael Koné grabbed himself the goal, so we won't talk about the result all that much. But yeah, he's just, as I always say when I talk about Ishmael Koné, he's had just such a wonderful season. I'm super excited to see what he's going to do at the World Cup, because there are few players on this Canada squad, Ishmael Koné, Nico Seeger. Those are my two. If you were new to Canada soccer, of course, you know who like Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David are, because most Canadians do. But if you aren't like a huge soccer person, I'm telling you, keep an eye on Ishmael Koné and Nico Seeger. I think both these guys are going to have huge summers, and I think will be on the move to some big, big clubs. You heard it here first at Maple Footy. Elsewhere in Italy, Jonathan David grabbed himself 25 minutes off the bench. We'll pause about Koné, but Jonathan David not enjoying himself the best of seasons, not enjoying himself a fun time at the moment either. Coach just re-upped as well to, I think it was 28 or 29. Jonathan David, there have been rumors breaking that PSG are interested in him. I wouldn't hate this move so long as David goes to PSG and he is their starting guy, but I'm not sure he would be. Based on, look at that front three, Kvaratskhelia, Doué, and Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembélé. That's going to be a very hard front three to crack if that is the case. But regardless, I do think that Jonathan David, he needs to pick up that form one way or another. And I like Jonathan David. I think that he can make it work at Juventus. I've maintained that throughout the season. But he needs to make it work. He needs to make it work. And he looked like for a moment he was doing really, really well. And he was for about that month or two where he really picked up form. And now since then, he's really dropped again. He's been fully dropped out the starting 11, only playing the last 25 minutes. That's doing you no good. So hopefully he can get it back on track, and we'll keep our fingers crossed on that, because I do think he's a quality player, and if anybody can turn around, it is a Jonathan David. So hopefully he can prove me right. I would appreciate that, Jonathan, because I have a lot of faith in him. But wrapping this one up with our captain, our left back, Alphonso Davies. He midweek played against Real Madrid 1-2-1 in their first leg in the Champions League. I genuinely think, now watch, they play on Wednesday. I'm going to say this and they're going to get knocked out. But I've maintained the fact from the start of the Champions League season, I think this Bayern side could go all the way and win the entire thing. They look so much better than pretty much every other team in this competition that I genuinely think that they could just go all the way and win it all. Now, like I said, with that being said, Real Madrid's now going to cast their Real Madrid Champions League juju in the second leg and win because it's what they do. But I still maintain the fact that this Bayern team looks really, really good. Alphonso Davies, of course, a huge part of that when he gets to play. Of course, still coming back from those injuries. But he did play against Real Madrid, got the final little bit of minutes in that one. Second leg is this Wednesday, so definitely watch that. Then on the weekend, Bayern Munich won 5-0 versus St. Pauli, and Alphonso Davies grabbed about the last 25 to half hour in that one. So I'm happy that they're just reintegrating him instead of just throwing him into the fire and just going, all right, Alphonso, have at her. And, good that they're managing his minutes, coming back from these injuries, and it's what he needs. It's what Canada needs as well. And yeah, hopefully that he can start to play from the start heading into the World Cup, because we are going to need Alphonso Davies. He would be my starting left back at this World Cup. He just would be. I've gone over this on socials. I've gone over this in this podcast. I'm not going to beat this dead horse. He needs to be our starting left back. So whatever gets him there, get him there in one piece, please, because we need Alphonso Davies, and hoping that him and Bayern Munich can go through in the next round of the Champions League, beating Real Madrid and hopefully going all the way, because I don't want to live in a world where Arsenal wins the Champions League. I just don't. And if a Canadian wins it, even better. So I think that's the best possible way to end this one. Thank you so much for listening. This was a lengthy one. Remember, if you did not listen to our Anthony Oromaterio interview, go and check it out. I think it's a really good one, especially because he just got man of the match in his most recent game played. So what better way to kind of learn a little bit more about one of the man of the matches of the weekend than to listen to a podcast from him. On Friday, reminder, we are dropping the Harry Paton interview that we conducted. Really much looking forward to you hearing that one, especially ahead of the Paton Bowl. So check that one out when it drops on Friday. I think you will like it. And outside of that, thank you so much for listening. My voice is absolutely going. So until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.